This is a long one, and I'm going to have a bit of a rant, but please bear with me because it's really important that we address what we're going to talk about now. And this has got to do with what the public want to see when it comes to Freemasonry and the good things that Masons do. Now, when we think about the ways in which we present Freemasonry to the general public, what message are we sending? And what is it that we actually communicate them through our signs, our banners, our pamphlets, and the other materials? But also, what is our intent from these promotional activities? Now, many would say that the ultimate outcome of our public presence in any way, shape, or form is for membership. And when you think about the different materials that we put into the public sphere, the end outcome is always membership-based, because we want more men to become Freemasons. And we believe that Freemasonry is of inherent value and can improve each of their lives. So it is natural that we want more people to become Masons. Now, if you have any experience in marketing or sales, you'll know that there are some very specific things that are required in order to ensure that your message is effective and it gets the desired result. In our case, as we agreed before, that desired result is ultimately more Masons. But let's face it, if more Masons wasn't the ultimate outcome that we're after, then we wouldn't put ourselves in the public sphere, and we'd actually live up to being that secret society that we're portrayed to be.
The comments, opinions, and views shared during this program are of those individual Freemasons and do not reflect the official position of a Grand Lodge, concordant body, appendant body, Masonic authority, or craftsmanonline.com.
Welcome to the Daily Masonic Progress Podcast with your host, Right Worshipful Brother Darren Allatt.
Recently, I helped a district put together a pull-up banner for when they're out in the community. The design was very simple. It had the square and compasses, giant QR code, and the suburbs of the different Masonic centers in that district. Now, an objection was raised to this when they got the artwork. It seemed that there was an apparent miscommunication because in the midst of wanting to generate leads for membership, the feedback on the banner, well, it needed to contain images showing the good things that Masons do. And this set me off because according to the well-meaning brother, it is apparently what the public want to see, i.e. the good things that Masons do. And this had me sort of wondering, well, what is it that the public actually want to see from us? Now, I spend a lot of time talking to Masons about membership. I won't go into why that I do that, as that's going to conflate my own personal views with the purpose for which I was speaking to them. But professionally, I've built my career in sales. And personally, I've built audiences across YouTube as well as this newsletter and turned podcast. Both of those things are marketing. My YouTube channel is about drones. I also have a YouTube channel for Daily Masonic Progress, so please jump onto that and have a look. But my drone YouTube channel, if you don't know the type of drones I fly, well, you use VR-style goggles and you get a live feed in those goggles of exactly what the drone sees. And I've done this for a few years, about 4-ish years now. And I've amassed what I would think is a respectable audience of just over 8,000 subscribers. I'm part of the YouTube Partner Program, and I get a couple $100 every month from YouTube because they run ads on my video. And then, of course, there's the hundreds from around the world who read this newsletter, and of course, you're absolutely one of them. Now, from all of this experience, and look, don't get me wrong, I'm a few nuggets short of a Happy Meal, but you'd hope that at least across all of this sales and marketing experience, I've learned something about it over that time. So when I talk to Masons about membership, the most common thing I hear is that the public simply do not understand what Freemasonry is. But I've also found, ironically, that most Masons themselves don't know what Freemasonry is either. Now, if we bring this back to the point of what message do we communicate through our public presence? Well, those signs, those brochures, those pamphlets that are regularly given, received, and shortly after binned and never to be seen again. And today, all of those materials have to answer one single question. And it's the question that is on the mind of the person looking at it. And that question is, what's in it for me? So when I ask you to do something, I have to be answering the question of what's in it for you. And this is true no matter what it is, even no matter how altruistic something may be. So When we then produce marketing materials, we first need to decide who is the me that our message is going to speak to. And then once you define the me, the message thereafter ultimately organically conveys the what is in it for that me. Now, in the example of using imagery that tells the public about the good things that we as Masons do, who's the me that we're talking to? Well, think fast. Think for a moment. Quick. What is it that Masons do? Now, don't go any further. Send me an email, darren@dailymasonicprogress.com. Tell me in a few words, preferably less than 5, what it is that Masons do. Go on, do it now. And if you're watching this on YouTube, go and drop me a comment. Okay, let's continue. I'm going to have a bet that most of the responses will be along the lines of we do charity or something charity related. We have meetings, we socialize, and maybe we do some rituals. But effectively, charity, meetings, and social are going to be the most common results. And those responses speak to the me who is a Mason. Effectively, the man standing behind or beside that pull-up banner. Now, this isn't to knock or say that doing things like charity or community service isn't a good thing. It's actually a great thing. The positive impact we have on those who need it the most is monumental, and we change so many lives by doing this. But the thing is, promoting that we do charity, that's actually self-serving because it communicates what's in it for us, what's in it for me. And that is the good feeling that we get from delivering an outcome and the impact we have on the world, and even the smallest world that is our local community. But charity promoted publicly as the things that Masons do is not blessing him that gives. There is, of course, naturally a time and place to promote the charity we do. And that should happen at the moment that charity occurs, such as presenting a big check to someone. But not after the fact, and certainly not within an activity or a medium designed for membership. And here is a way to think about it. The other night I was watching Q&A, and the politicians were asked a question. And they immediately went into their default response of explaining how great their policies are around that question. They explained what they have done to address the matter of the question and how much money that they committed in the budget to the matter of the question. But in the end, they didn't actually answer the question. But in the process of providing their politician's answer, they completely turned everyone off from wanting to hear from them. They just disengaged. They thought, well, you didn't answer the question and you just spoke around it, so you've got nothing meaningful and of substance to say. And telling people how great we are at charity, that's our version of the politician's answer that I just shared. Now, I'm going to paraphrase a quote from the volume of the Sacred Law that absolutely sums this up perfectly. And that verse goes a little like this. Be careful not to practice your righteousness in front of others to be seen by them. If you do, you'll have no reward. You see, the more we promote the good things that we do or how great we are, the more we are practicing our righteousness in front of others. In this case, it's the general public. And then we wonder and we complain as to why, when we do these events in public for membership, we don't ever get any members from them. Really? You don't say. Now, if you think about all that is going on in modern life, globally, wage growth has been flat. The cost of living has been exponentially increasing. House prices and rent, no matter where you live, are unaffordable. Households today have 2 full-time income earners with children. They have to pay for schooling or childcare, as well as after-school care and sports. And then you throw in that as life is getting more digital, personal connections fade, and genuine friendships and the physical human experience diminishes. We're getting more lonelier each and every day. We're consumed in our smartphones and the constant barrage of notifications that they give us. I mean, how many emails, text message, and notifications have you got listening to this already? So in this battlefield of modern life, how do we as Masons dare to say in those marketing materials, come and join the Masons so you can put more pressure on yourself, more pressure on your family, more pressure of your work, and give you time to also doing these good things that Masons do. And then those that do become Masons, we say to them, hang on a tick, family work Freemasonry. And we want them to come and do those activities simply because it's going to lessen the burden on us. We put them through degrees quickly, so we've got work to do. We put them straight into office, so we have people to fill these empty chairs. And we get them to skip office just to get a Master Mason into the chair at our time of installation. We push them into other orders because all these other orders need members too. Except we told them, no, Masonry is only one night a month, and you'll find out what Masonry is when you join. It's charity, it's becoming a better person, it's becoming part of this global network. And yeah, we wonder why they're just not engaged or committed, and they just leave. We get so caught up in the acts of the physical or monetary charity that we forget what charity really is. You see, the word charity is translated from the Greek word agape, which means love. Masonically, our ceremonies instruct us that charity is giving and serving, and doing so unconditionally, even when we have nothing to give. So, how does this all tie back to marketing, you might ask, and especially membership, and the whole what's in it for me, where, again, the me is the general public and not us as Masons? Well, the answer is actually very simple. We need to be giving and serving others. That's all we need to do in this instance. Now, that pull-up banner, it's information. The whole point of that QR code is to direct the person to a landing page which gives them the information they want about Freemasonry, explains what's in it for them, and provides them a way to get more information about the craft if they so desire. So, yes, to an extent, it's all well and good to say that we're sharing the what's in it for them. And you might think that, well, being part of Masonry so they can participate in the good things that Masons do is giving them something. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's giving us something, or rather someone, an additional set of hands to lessen our burdens. But you may say that it's the blessing of giving that they get. Now, I see your point, and I'll raise you this. What is Freemasonry? Now, our ceremonies are explicitly clear as to what Freemasonry is, and any answer other than quite literally a simple translation of a peculiar system of morality, vowed in allegory and illustrated by symbols. Anything other than that is not what Freemasonry is. So, let's come back to the request of having images that show the good things that Masons do on this banner. Well, let's define what it is that Masons do before we determine whether or not they're good. Charity, let's start with that. Charity is not what Masons do. Have meetings is not what Masons do, and socialize is not what Masons do. What Masons do is we practice Freemasonry. Well, I know that's a completely vague and, to an extent, an unhelpful answer, but let me explain. I want to consider medical doctors for a moment. Now, they practice medicine, right? And you could say that any advertising that shows doctors helping sick people is what they do. But it's not actually. You see, if they don't practice medicine, they won't ever be able to help anyone who is sick. If doctors just focused on doing the good things that they do, helping the sick, instead of practicing medicine, well, you'd still be getting cough medicine laced with opioids. Yes, cough medicine used to have heroin in it. Now, sure, this is an extreme example and I'm kind of picking a straw man, but it clearly demonstrates the difference between the good things that people do and practicing medicine. But there's more to why it's called practicing medicine. Dr. Darren Allatt had this beautiful quote: "Medicine is forever an expanding art and science, and we must be students of the human body and our expanding understanding of it." So why do doctors say that they practice medicine? Well, in the article that Dr. Allatt wrote, which this quote is from, she uses the definition of practice to substantiate her position, much like how I do the same in our articles. The definition is to perform an activity or exercise, being a skill, repeatedly or regularly in order to acquire, improve or maintain proficiency in it. To carry out or perform a particular activity, method or custom habitually or regularly. To actively pursue or be engaged in a particular profession or occupation, and observe the teachings and rules of a, in brackets, particular religion. Now, from this definition, it should be quite obvious to draw the parallels from why doctors call it practicing medicine to why we call it practicing Freemasonry. But there's a little more to it as to why it is practicing Freemasonry. And this brings us back to that peculiar system, part of the definition of Freemasonry. We know peculiar system is a unique method of teaching the lessons of intention, character, and action through stories and symbols of the ancient stonemasons. But I want to delve into the peculiar system part. Now, I've been trying for a while to figure out what makes Freemasonry a peculiar system. Peculiar does mean unique, as I mentioned before, but what leads me to why Freemasonry is unique is quite interesting, and it's also why it's different, but why it has stood the test of time. Now, I don't necessarily want to compare the organizational success of Freemasonry to other similar bodies like the Oddfellows, Rosicrucians, Free Gardeners, and the United Order of the Mechanics, or even the Order of the Illuminati, right? For those orders, there are absolutely many similarities and some that are very too close for comfort. Now, we can say that what makes Freemasonry unique is our rituals and our ceremonies. But in those formerly mentioned, well, there's all commonalities across the ceremonies and teachings, although the mechanics basically did a complete copy and paste job of Freemasonry and split 3 degrees over 5. I mean, the mechanics ritual pretty much replaced any reference to the word Freemason or Freemasonry and Masons with mechanics. There's the gardeners. They also use the square and compass in their logo too, right? Now let's talk about the mechanics because they're a funny bunch. They were founded in 1757 in England, and structurally they were a friendly society like the Oddfellows, not a fraternal society like Freemasonry. The key difference between a fraternal and a friendly society is, well, friendly societies were the precursor to private health insurance, superannuation, and cooperative banking or credit unions. In Australia, Manchester Unity Oddfellows evolved into Australian Unity, which is a health insurer, super fund, and financial advisory, much like Oddfellows into IOOF. Membership to the Oddfellows was actually quite prolific. My grandfather was one as well as a Mason. They're constitutions that required that you couldn't be more than 3 months in arrears, otherwise you'd forfeit your benefits. So the last meeting of every quarter was very well attended. Now, back in England in 1911, the National Insurance Act was passed, and this instituted a public welfare system, and it meant the need for people to be part of friendly societies to get the financial benefits were effectively void because you were only a member because it was your insurance. Those friendly societies that were small practically died, and those that were big continued until the laws changed in more recent times. And those friendly societies evolved into financial service companies. The mechanics, on the other hand, well, they went down the path of a fraternal order. They'd already adapted Craft, Royal Arch, and to an extent Templar ritual into their degree system. It's literally word for word. But what I'm trying to get here is Freemasonry, despite other systems of teaching being, I kid you not, exactly the same, or with overlapping or similar lessons, again, the mechanics used a ritual word for word. But Freemasonry is still a unique body to any of the others. But what makes Freemasonry unique? Well, it's a culmination of both the operative or guild and speculative masonry within Freemasonry. And no other orders have that. Guild masonry, from which it is said that Freemasonry evolved from, still had the moral lessons and standards of intention, character, and action that were verbally passed on and taught through the stories and symbols of the ancient stonemasons who built King Solomon's Temple. The Halliwell manuscript, for example, which is thought to be from about 1390, very much lays out what we know as the lessons of moral instruction that we as speculative masons apply or learn from. When you read it, if you know your ritual, you'll find the origin of many of the things that we do or say throughout our ceremonies, our ancient usages, and our established customs within that manuscript. But the point is this, and it's straight from the working tools. The operative meaning, or the interpretation from our ceremonies, gives us practical lessons and instructions, while the allegory and symbolic meaning of interpretation gives us those moral lessons and moral instructions. The operative lessons speak to how we are to practically apply those lessons in the physical realm, while the moral lessons speak to how we internally or spiritually apply them. So the fact that we combine both applications of the lesson from the same symbol or allegory is what makes us unique. And this is what the public actually want to know. They want to know what's in it for me. What do I get from Freemasonry? Not being a Freemason. What do I get for giving up my time, putting aside everything else that's going on in my life? Well, here is the answer. You learn from ancient wisdom that has stood the test of time, that gives and teaches you the practical and internal lessons to construct a metaphorical temple. Now, that metaphorical temple is pretty much symbolic of anything you want to pursue in life. That can be yourself, your character, your family, your home, your job, any task. It is a metaphoric temple. So by practicing Freemasonry, it builds you into a person who has a life of meaning, purpose, and fulfillment.
This has been the Daily Masonic Progress Podcast. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure you follow us on Spotify or subscribe on Apple Podcasts. The Daily Masonic Progress Podcast is available on all streaming platforms with new episodes every week.